Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Breeding, and I'm the Senior Director of Strategic Accounts at NuAge Experts. NuAge is the #1 Salesforce partner for small and mid-sized businesses in North America that provides a professional, a fun, and transformative experience to leverage the Salesforce by leveraging the Salesforce platform. I'm super excited about our presentation today. We are going to be talking about account planning, looking at how do you plan, how do you track, what do you do with those account plans once you have them. And we know everybody does account plans. Not everyone's going to do them the way we do, but we're super excited to share with you how we are using Prolifiq CRUSH. It's almost 4 months into the new year already. Life's starting to get back to normal for some of us. However, it is that time of year where those account plans start to collect dust, and somebody, or actually probably most people, forget all about them. We found at NuAge that really is unacceptable because it was very much hindering our business. And so we decided that we were going to be committed in 2021 to account plans, territory plans, which are going to be the center and are the center of our daily cadence. And it's actually working phenomenally. The strategic account team, which is our SAM team, has been utilizing this since the beginning of the year. And it has shown to be super successful as we've grown our business from last year, which has been phenomenal. So just to get started, a few housekeeping notes here before, or if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into your question box, which is in your Zoom control panel. I will ask any of those questions during our Q&A session. Your microphones are on mute, and your questions will come through as anonymous. So our agenda today, you're going to be hearing from Jay Jarvis. He is the Executive Vice President of Enterprise and Alliance from Prolifiq, and Tim Schultz, who is the Senior Vice President from NuAge Experts. After that, we'll have a Q&A session, at which time, again, if you have any questions, we'll answer those at that time. So to get started, I'd like to introduce Jay. Today, we are super excited to have Jay Jarvis with us. He's a thought leader on account planning, has worked at Salesforce for almost a decade, and now spends his time helping companies enable their sales teams with account management tools like NuAge, which is why we are currently using Prolifiq CRUSH. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Jay.
Thanks, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. And we are obviously very excited to be a part of this conversation. It's a topic that's near and dear to our heart at Prolifiq. In fact, it's everything that we're all about. So looking forward to the conversation today. I guess a little bit of background, and hi everyone, my name is Jay Jarvis, as Jennifer just introduced me. I joined Prolifiq about 7 months ago as the EVP of Enterprise and Alliances, and was a sales leader for not quite a decade, Jennifer, so don't, 8 years. I'm 2 years younger than you think I am, apparently, but it's all good. But while I was there, I learned a lot about the industry. I had worked at Oracle for a long time before that, so account planning has been, something I've always been sort of focused on. But I did realize the importance of working with really strong partners like NuAge. I led teams that leveraged NuAge's expertise for many years, but I also understood, the power of a native app exchange partner like an ISV, which is what Prolifiq is, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, to really extend the functionality. So I've been excited to join this team and work to drive value to the customers that we both work with. So maybe we'll go to the next slide. So a quick introduction to who Prolifiq is, if you don't know. We were founded in 1999, so we've been around for a little while. We've got about 35 employees. We were originally started our headquarters in Portland, Oregon. And we grew out the business to Chicago, and then through the pandemic, we've actually hired a lot of folks across numerous states and cities in the U.S. But we did do a major relaunch in 2017, which is really important because our leadership team and our board decided that we needed to pivot the strategy a little bit and actually build all of our applications native to Salesforce. And so we are really proud to announce the fact that we are 100% native. We're native on the front end, we're native on the back end. And so you see a lot of App Exchange partners explaining native, but I would say we are really the definition of what that means. And so I think it gives us a leg up, and it really helps drive the adoption of our tools. We are privately funded, and we've gotten a lot of accolades, through our ISV partnership at Salesforce for what we've done in the ecosystem. Many of our executives are actually Salesforce alumni. Our CEO, our VP of Sales, myself, our alliances team. So we have a really keen understanding of the ecosystem and what is important to Salesforce customers. I think that really helps us understand how to connect and what they're after as customers of Salesforce, Prolifiq, and NuAge. So here's the crux of it, right? What are the problems that we solve? And I would say, having been in sales leadership for a long time, I do know and I believe that key account planning is an absolute best practice, but it's always been a difficult practice to actually execute on. And what I mean by that is, typically we've been pushed out of the CRM that we're using, especially Salesforce, right? And using external tools. And it's really difficult to collaborate. It's really difficult to make sure that we are actually embracing these plans and executing upon them. And so at Prolifiq, we decided, okay, what happens if we were to take all of this critical, all these critical motions relative to our most important customers and prospects and pull them all back into Salesforce and drive adoption, number one, okay? Number two, obviously drive execution and collaboration, which ultimately we get to the results that we're after as a sales team and an organization. I think that a lot of times, that I've seen, and I'm guilty of this, we build these plans and they're almost like a checkbox because they get put in a drawer and no one really backs into them again and doesn't iterate on them over the course of the year. And so Prolifiq can really solve for that, bringing everything right into the heart of Salesforce. So basically what we are, we like I said, we are a native platform on Salesforce, and we deliver the capabilities of like key account management, relationship management, the digital assets that you want to deliver to the right customers at the right time, all on Lightning. So like I said, we're native on Salesforce to deliver the best customer experience, the best user experience on Salesforce as well. And I'll get into that a little bit more on the next slide, if you don't mind. But it starts with an influence map, understanding, who are we talking to? Who are we not talking to? Who should we be talking to? And using the data points that we have in Salesforce and other access to data to help populate this and prompt a very proactive approach to who we reach out to and why. Quip is mentioned here, and I know that Tim is going to drive us through a lot of this today in terms of how NuAge is leveraging experiences across different technologies. But we have the ability to integrate with Quip seamlessly. And then finally, the relationship map, who are the blockers, who are the champions, who do we need to target in terms to really build the relationships that we have with our prospects and customers. SWOT analysis, another high touch point here, understanding where we have the strengths, where are the weaknesses, and what's the actions to go after in order to build out a very cohesive plan across our teams. Understanding what the white space looks like in terms of where we should be cross-selling, upselling, et cetera. And then finally, pulling it together with the right content towards the right context at the right time. And all of this comes together, I think about tying it in a bow with analytics. And that's the biggest challenge when you're working externally in these tools. There really is no way to truly understand how we're tracking, whether or not anyone's actually following up on the plan that was originally developed. And so analytics, anything CRM, in my opinion, kind of comes down with that visibility and collaboration around how we're tracking and where do we need to put extra effort, resources, et cetera. And I think we'll see that today in Tim's presentation as well. So that's a bit about Prolifiq. Again, thank you for having us. Thank you for the partnership. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the conversation and some Q&A.
Thanks, everyone. I think Jennifer's on mute with that, but I'll take this as my cue to just get into some of the demonstration aspects of this. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Tim Schultz. I head up sales over at NuAge Experts. I've been in this ecosystem for about a decade, and I think this type of engagement with our clients, I'm seeing some of the names here. I'm really excited to see them. I won't embarrass anyone by calling them out and saying hi, but welcome to our webinar series. I'm super excited. I kind of equate this to giving you a tour of our house. We get asked so many times to walk people around what we do, and while what we do at NuAge isn't perfect for everyone, it's here to stimulate ideas and think about how are you challenging yourself to continuously improve with Salesforce. So this is a glance at that. What I'll do first is I'm going to walk us through our journey of account planning. I think everybody's at some point in their journey. I can't think of a company out there that doesn't do some element of sales planning when it comes to this. So this slide, NuAge started in 2015. By 2019, we were still just using Salesforce accounts. And what I mean by that is like, we didn't have a strategy. We are lucky enough to be in an industry where there are many companies that need our help. And what's evolved from that point on is we introduced Quip to our organization for many reasons, but one of the things we tried to do with it was to do account planning. We still use Quip. I'm going to touch on kind of why we don't use it for account planning anymore, and it's a part of our strategy. But then the pandemic hits in 2020, and some of those luxuries of our business of having so many different customers and so much new business kind of fell back, and we had to react. So we built out our strategic account management team, Jennifer, Camilla, and Annika, who are on here, and that team is growing to help us engage better with our clients and know them more. And we needed a tool that we could depend on, not Excel, not necessarily standalone Quip. And we turned to Crush. We thought about building something ourselves, and we turned to Crush. And quick announcement, like this is not intended to be a sales pitch for Crush. It can feel that way. I know our first webinar for Centro, connecting Slack and Salesforce, we talked a lot about product, but candidly, we can't talk about our journey with this without telling you about the product. So Jay set the stage about what it does. I'm going to walk you through what the heck we do with it and how we work with it. So in the danger of showing a live demo on a live webinar, I'm going to do it. So we'll walk you around our kitchen, and ultimately we are going to keep our eye out for questions. I might not get them in real time, but please throw them out there and we'll get to them in the Q&A if we don't. So what I'm planning to show on this, our SAM team, day in the life, how have they taken the concept of an account plan that normally sits in the corner, and Jay mentioned collects dust in the cabinet, and bring that to the center of our world. That's what I'm going to show you today. In order to do that, I got to walk you through what the heck our account plans are. So I will do that. I'll touch on the manager's perspective. How do we leverage these for me and my team to have a more informed one-on-one meeting and planning for the year? And then we'll talk a little bit about how our delivery team, which is the largest part of our organization, is able to work with these account plans so that we can collaborate around them. So with that, I'm going to take the screen away from you, Camilla, and share mine. I've got a few of them here. So I'm going to look, I can see Jennifer. I'm going to look for a nod of the head when you can see my screen. Perfect. So I'm rewind back about a year and a half or so from now. We brought out Quip, and I don't mean to cover Quip as a negative. We actually have incorporated it into our account plan strategy, but I want to point out the challenge we had when we tried to use this for account plans for ourselves. So we did create account plan Quip documents. If you're not familiar with Quip, it's a Salesforce document management and collaboration tool. You may have seen it. We use it for a lot of our project status updates in other areas, but ultimately we pulled in data so you could surface it. But in the end, and I'm Chicago, so I'm going with Portillo's an account we found a lot of this. Empty Quips, and this is Annika's account plan. I'm not trying to offend her. She knows. It's just, we found it hard to know, how do I engage with my account plan? How do I go back to it? And that's the problem we see with Excel, and in some cases, these systems that aren't ingrained into your routine is is there's no check engine light feature. There's nothing there that's saying I need to do this. We had some notifications to do things, but they were kind of in a different area. And ultimately we looked for something that was a little bit different. So pivoting over, and now I'm into the account record. We're going to, we're using a sort of a fake account called New Communications Inc. And I'll tell this story as if Annika and I are working together on this in our account plan. So you're in our live org. This is our live org. I did change some of the data to protect it, but ultimately on our accounts, every one of these has an account plan related list. So every year for us, we create account plans. We have some clients that do quarterly account plans, but suffice to say, we've got a nice place to look at this. And it's not buried in Excel or someplace else. And as I navigate into the account plan, I'm going to spend a few minutes orienting you to what we actually track. What is this concept of the account plan? So look and feel like Salesforce. I see a question. You mentioned tools are 100% native. What does that mean? It means it's built on the Salesforce platform. So Prolifiq built table structure and concepts that can be downloaded from the App Exchange directly into Salesforce. So you get this table structure. So at the top, we've got our account plan tied to new communications. I know instantly in our world, the things that are important to us as a team are primarily our annual expected revenue goals. So rewind, we're four and a half months into the year. Back in December and January, Annika evaluated our previous work with new communications and determined that this year she felt about $100,000 was about where it was. Now, many of you, I see some folks from certain industries where you might have to go deeper than that, and that's okay. This can be configured that way, but in our world, just planning on what revenue stream do we expect over the year is a great starting point. It's simple, it's easy. And we use over here some DLRS lookups. If you're not familiar with DLRS, don't worry about it, but it's a fantastic way of rolling up data that can oftentimes be tricky for folks, but we leverage some DLRS rollups to roll up related opportunity data to instantly understand where we're at. So I'm having conversations with Annika about this account. We know she's trying to get to about $100,000 or projecting that. We still have another 37 to go because there was a phase 1 integration that happened back in March. And I'm able to look at this without even having any conversation with her and understanding that she has a plan to fill that gap as she works through it. And it's with a phase 2 integration project that's in the potential stage. So I'm probably going to be talking with Annika about what steps do we need to take to move that forward? What are the risks related to that? Instead of having a very casual conversation about this account. Moving over a little bit, you'll see this account status flag. And I think this has probably been, it's simple, but it's been the key to our longevity over this first part of this year in using this tool. This is a formula field that produces a red or a green flag. We had to go behind the scenes and determine what criteria meant red flag for us. And I'll talk about what those are, but it's generic. We could have any criteria that could determine what is a non up-to-date account plan so that our team can now look for red flags on lists. And I'll show you that in a minute to understand what they need to do. So it gives you that, I call it sort of being proactively reactive, where I know if this is green, I don't need to do anything. If it's not green, it's time to go do something. And in our world, it's based off of a variety of criteria, but it pulls primarily into my next point, which is these objectives. So if you're trying to do account plans on the account record itself, you'll quickly find that you need a table structure below that to game plan around what you're actually trying to do. So you can see the headers here, Annika and I and the 6th. So today we're pretending in this case, we have an executive alignment meeting. We know that in the future, she wants to connect with the Salesforce account executive after that meeting to connect. And we need to touch base with Leanne, who's on our project team. You'll also notice some key dates. There is automation automatically built into this for us where we expect their project, their initial phase to go live on 7/31. And we have some reminders built in around their fiscal year end of 9/30 because we need them to be planning for this additional phase leading up to that. So we know that the system will notify us around these key dates, and it's a great way to sort of disconnect from having to proactively check the engine yourself every time you turn the car on. Moving my way over, I want to touch on a few of the cool non-standard components that we leverage. So built-in SWOT analysis. As we add these in to them, anyone that's on the team will be notified unless they choose not to be. So in our example, I'm going to pretend that I had this executive alignment meeting and their CEO is talking about acquiring a company in the coming days. So I'm going to say acquisition potential here and just mention to Annika 2022 might acquire a competitor. And what we'll see in this is my opportunity as referenced here. Annika just got a notification, and you bet she knows that an objective needs to be created on how we are going to react to this and how this acquisition is going to be something we can build a strategy around. And we may end up including additional team members because of this and circle them into this group. So standard SWOT analysis, I don't need to get too much detail there. Here's your first sighting of Quip. We've baked Quip into our account plans now to serve the purpose it does really well, which is standardized note taking. So we are bringing our tools for note taking into the area we want to drive Annika and team to work. So this is one example of how we've embedded Quip. And then I think the other key part, and this relationship map to us is, it seems simple in nature, but what we found in our world is that most of our conversations were not going beyond our champions. So in this case, Richard, he's a champion. When we looked at our engagement with clients, and we've tracked it, we've increased our engagement 40% this year. We tend to stick with our champions that have high influence, but we're not challenging ourselves to get into some of these supporters, maybe blockers, and build plans or objectives around our strategies with them. So this allows us to do it. One nice thing I'm showing here is that Salesforce's relationship to the account in our world is important. So if you've got these multi-partner examples in your world, please consider the relationship map. And I could come in here and build different relationships between people, either informal or formal in nature. Keeping on, I got two more things to cover on this. We do something in our business now called a client strategic plan. So think of the world, how we build our strategic plans. We offer a free service now that our SAM team is driving. So if you're ever interested, please take them up on it. They'll sit down. In this case, we're showing potentially the marketing team over at this account is doing a strategic plan with us. And within that strategic plan, we're talking to them about their strategies, their objectives, some challenges they're having that are even beyond the work that we do. And we leverage Quip in this case to put together a deliverable for them, which we'll load in just a sec, along with various other key objectives and project stakeholders and other things. So we have this as something that we feel is helpful to our clients to help them understand key objectives, projects, and things that are going on in their world. And it's a service that we are excited to be providing to our clients as we help them analyze and consult them on their business. So we could do that in our world. We discern we could do that with many different departments. So within those departments, we are able to build many or one-to-many relationship here. I see a few more questions coming in. I will get to them. I haven't looked at them yet, but I want to circle through on the just introduction of all of this. Slack, for those of you that are on webinar number 2 with us, our friends over at Centro, I'm not paid to be, but I am a big believer that Slack is going to take over email in our world if it hasn't already. If you have Slack and Salesforce and you do not have them connected, shame on you, I would say. It is not difficult. It does not even take our involvement. Please consider that Slack is dominating and all the good information is happening in Slack these days, especially with internal conversations. So we are linking our Slack channels to Salesforce records. So we have a Slack channel built in here that shows us, and Annika and I can start having conversations about our meeting that we have later today. There is so much information that we realized was hidden in Slack, and we have to contextually expose it out in our org. Last, to show that this isn't a fake demo, we don't use tasks in our world. We only drive our world by these objectives and this account plan green. So it's not something that we find helpful for our use case, but many companies love leveraging tasks. And the last piece, it kind of seems natural we would keep a history of what's going on, but the beauty of this is the CRUSH application, which is a key thing for us as we evaluated it, was simply the date timestamps here. So I can run reports to know who's been adding SWOT analysis criteria to their account plans, and it becomes an early warning indicator of who's actually leveraging their account plans. So if I need to use the stick instead of the carrot to help drive behavior around this, or if we need to figure out how to improve things in this, it's often indicated by who's adding key stakeholders or dates and so on to their account plan. So that's the harbor cruise of what we typically show. I do want to pop over here and just show the way we start our day. So how do we leverage an account plan in here? So I'm on a list view. Here's our account plan. I created a filtered list view to pull all of our account plans together. And a quick announcement, if you're really keen on this, you'll notice this doesn't have the account plan lookup relationship, and it doesn't have our account name on it. That is intentional. Those are our first two columns on here. In the privacy of our clients, we didn't want to expose all of our client names here. So I did remove that. Obviously, if you were rolling something out like this, you have your account names as the first column and your probably account plan relationships. You could click into it. But what we're able to see and what's driving our behavior to make this something that is not collecting dust is these beautiful red flags are coming up. Jennifer needs to go reach out to this account. I would know it if we actually put the name here, but I removed it. So Jennifer's got a little bit of stuff to catch up with, Annika as well, and Annika has another account. So we drive our world by red flags on account plans, and it's been a fantastic system for us. So it's simple, it works, and oftentimes that's the best solution. Last piece I wanted to show was just on our SAM dashboards. This is our Strategic Account Manager dashboard. I've left it get a little old here so that we can show some of the exception reporting that we do. Our SAM dirty account plans. So if there is something that is red, it will surface here. We are big believers in exception reporting. So reports should be blank. This is an example here. There are no account plans that have 0 activity in the last month. So if there's no activity, this is another checkpoint from it. And then the last thing, it's simple what we do, but we look at that targeted revenue. What did you project the revenue to be? And we look at what that is and we compare that to where you're going to be and some other numbers. So this is a sneak peek, fully no changes to this besides I changed a little bit of the account names. And I do see a couple questions coming in. I'm going to just take 1 second to look and see if any of them are necessary before I stop sharing my screen. Can we pair this process with different sales methodologies? I'm going to save that one because I don't have anything to show with it. And then can this be related to industries instead of accounts? We can talk about that when we're not sharing my screen. Is there anything, is this something we can just custom build? So before I stop sharing, I do want to come back. Obviously, NuAge, we're an implementation partner, so we oftentimes will build things instead of buying them. For us, this table structure was not difficult to conceptualize how we would build, but we realized that if we built it, instead of purchasing the application, we would be leaving out the SWOT analysis, which to me would leave us with a related list of strengths, weaknesses, and I just didn't think the team would use it. So we erred on the side of buy versus build there. And we didn't want to even start to build out this contact relationship piece in here. So our objective was we decided that it was a great decision to incorporate this and also the notifications that we receive throughout our usage of the system as dates change. Hard to show you that, but as dates change and things get added, all team members get notifications on this. So with that, I'm going to pause my screen and give it back to Camilla. If during the Q&A we need to show anything else, I'm happy to do it. And I want to round out my part of this by just giving a quick announcement that we have already completed our Slack and Salesforce webinar. We just are completing our account planning with Prolifiq. Our next webinar is going to be showing how you can leverage accounting data in Salesforce with our good friends over at Tally Street. And hopefully while I have your attention, we're looking for ideas on other topics. Like we leverage TaskRay for project management, very sophisticated project management in our system. We have QuickBooks integrated. We do a ton of integration work. So if that would be a good topic, let us know. Quoting or CPQ Revenue Cloud is something we could do in around our org. And then I mentioned DLRS, but if you're an admin and you're kind of looking for a new tip and trick, we could talk about how we leverage DLRS to do summaries and roll-ups and how we leverage that to do it. If you're not using it, you should be. So please share with us either after or during this, if there's anything on the webinar schedule you'd like to see us do. With that,
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, thanks, Tim, so much. Some great information. I hope you guys all enjoyed the demo. Like I said, I'm super excited. It's something I work in every day. So it's been something that honestly, throughout my career, I wish I'd had it a long time ago. But let's get started on the Q&A. We do have a few questions. I know we've already answered the first one, but I know, Tim, you said you wanted to hold off on the, can we pair this process with different sales methodologies? Is that one that you want to take?
Yeah, so gosh, I wish we could open up the audience to speak on this. I don't know if it works, but we won't try to. But if we don't answer this question in detail, you know, we see a lot of Sandler and Blue Sheets and things like that. But ultimately in our world, this is Salesforce. So if you've got a sales methodology that you want incorporated into this, we have the full tool set for you to be able to build that out inside of this. So if there's certain templated objectives or repeatable systematized things that you do, there is nothing stopping us from pre-populating account plans or pre-creating them with those objectives and dates in there. All of that is at our disposal and is where we get a little bit inventive on this. So I don't know if there's a specific sales methodology you want to speak to, but I don't see many limitations, probably worth a discussion if you're curious.
Jay, what about you? I mean, you're obviously working with a lot of other clients with that one and different sales methodologies. What are some of the things you're seeing out there?
Yeah, you bet. I mean, you know, a lot of different organizations, a lot of our customer base will use, you know, like Tim mentioned, either, you know, whether it's Sandler or something different. But yes, we go through a pretty thorough discovery process with any one of our either prospects or customers to understand exactly how this would fit into their methodology, and then configure it in that way. And obviously, you know, a partner like NuAge has even extended visibility into that to help consult in that way.
All right. Let's try this one. We wanted to talk about iPhone usage. Is this something that'll work with your iPhone within your Salesforce mobile? Jay, I don't know if you want to jump in on that one.
You bet. I mean, that's the beauty of being native on the platform. And I think, you know, Tim did a great job of explaining what native meant at the beginning, but essentially there is no real API. We are built 100% right in Lightning. So if you can expose that, any of the data within Salesforce One, the mobile app, if you're using Prolifiq, you'll see the same objects, et cetera.
Excellent. All right, then what about, let's see, we talked about it could be within different industries. I think did we move some of the answered questions over? My apologies.
Yeah, I clicked through to answer some of them. I would love to take this question. Can this type of planning be related to an industry instead of accounts? Great question. I wish we could discuss this. But if the concept is we want to apply a specific plan towards, let's say, manufacturing customers or healthcare customers, I see no reason why not. Now, in our world, or in the world of the tool we use, which is CRUSH, it does have a specific relationship to the account record. I think it is a master detail relationship. So we would maybe need to think about whether we create an account record type that represents that industry, and then you could build many account plans or one account plan year over year over that. And the key here would be we would relate accounts that fall into that industry to that account plan. So there's many tiering layers we could do with this. Ultimately, there is nothing stopping us. I hope it was shown in enough detail, but we related opportunities to our account plans. The same thing, we can relate accounts to these. And heck, we could even write a little bit of a looped workflow that would automatically move accounts into that account plan. I could see a way where you'd want to project over specific accounts and roll it up to the industry level to get some account planning forecasting for the industry. But, you know, probably a bigger conversation, but absolutely exciting thought.
Tim, I know that, you know, obviously we work together, but I'm just curious from like your perspective, what do you see that NuAge has taken away as far as the most they've gotten out of what they have implemented so far with Crush?
You want me? That's for me.
Yeah.
So, you know, we suffered the same challenges. It's tricky. I'll be very honest. Like, NuAge suffers the same challenges as many others. And someone said we're new to the infancy of account planning. How can you help us? Well, I'll speak to our truth. We're not new to Salesforce, and we had some challenges rolling this out. We had people saying, this seems like busy work. How is this going to help me? But we had a clear vision. We knew that we were already doing this in disparate ways. And ultimately, it has been something that our team has leveraged. And the key for us has been keep it simple. We don't require people to do certain things. All we require is that create an account plan, set a couple objectives, and make sure you have some projection of what you think you'll do with that account. And those limited areas has helped us to drive this in a very compounding way. For instance, I know that our team actually goes and starts their day by looking for red flag account plans, and it's not meant to be bad. It's meant to warn you that it's time to look at it. So for us, we kept it simple. It's been extremely effective. Our engagement, our revenue is up this year, but I care more about the fact that our engagement with clients is up. I think we have a better understanding and we're able to support our clients more proactively. So to me, that's the key of it, is our SAM team is just so in lockstep with our accounts.
Hey, Tim, can I add something to that comment as well, if you don't
Sure.
mind? I think, you know, I think if you're just starting the strategic account planning process now, I think it's important to do some discovery, and we would be happy to do so alongside NuAge, because what you don't want to do is get into the pitfall of like going down, you know, those sort of like external tools scenarios, and then ultimately see that there's a necessity to pivot. And I also like, I look at Salesforce, it's like, I love the concept that, you know, Salesforce will grow with you, just like any native application like Prolifiq will grow with you. And so therefore, it's like, it's the last thing that you ever need to invest in, and you can actually iterate over time and be very flexible and agile.
Yeah. And to pile on that, the question keeps standing out to me. We're in our infancy stages of doing strategic account planning. How can you help us? You've been doing it before. Somebody's just been doing it in a very unstructured way. So listen to the team. You know, let the most picky person find the most grumpy salesperson that thinks they know how it's done, and just pick their brain for what they do. Typically, that's the person that sells the most, and they don't want to change. Like, start there. Don't shy away from that individual, because that's the person that ultimately, if we can find enough carrots, you'll be there. And I can't help but share my social media example, and the analogy I love is just, I have 2 kids now. My parents did not know how to use social media 3 years ago prior to Izzy being born. My goodness, they know everything about Facebook sharing rules, Facebook logins, you name it, because they had incentive. They wanted to post pictures of their grandchildren. So if we find enough carrots and we find the right shiny things to put in front of these folks, they will come, they will learn, and they will dive into it. And it doesn't have to be, it just requires listening. Don't try to overcomplicate it.
You know, Tim, I think I'd add to that too. You know, one of the things I think that we did, probably I would highly suggest, is we all worked collaboratively with this. So Tim really empowered the SAM team to go in and say, how do you want your account plans to look? And then collaborate with him and say, how do you want our account plans to look? And so it was great because it allowed us to really kind of look at what are the things that we are doing, and what are the things that we should be doing that we're not, to make us better. And it's an ever-growing account plan. I think every day or every week, anyways, we're looking at it. We're saying, hey, maybe we should add this. I ran across this with my client today. So it's definitely not something that's like set in stone. It's always something you can grow with. But I think that was probably the most, what's made it most successful for us, is that we all work together. Jay, I was curious. So I asked him, you know, what he's seen that he got the most out of from Prolifiq. What is it some of you are, one of the things that you're seeing success stories from your clients that they've, you know, come to you and said, hey, wow, you know, and I know they might be using it different, which is kind of, you know, what I might want to hear as well, or the audience would like to hear, is like, how are some other people using it differently, and what's their success been?
I think for me, the number one thing that I hear about is consistency across the board. So Tim, to your point, there are probably silos of organizations doing account planning. That's probably a given, but actually driving a repeatable process that actually drives results and has accountability tied to it and collaboration. To ultimately execute. And I think that's a really big part of it, especially with more complex organizations. I think outside of that, I would also just hammer down on the idea that like a lot of our customers are spending quite a bit of money on Salesforce, right? And so, truly they want to find, or unlock all of the value that they possibly can. And I think this has been a historical challenge and a problem. And I'm the first one to admit it, and I would never say anything poorly about Salesforce. I think that this is why the App Exchange was ultimately invented, right? Is to extend core functionality with some of the most critical things that a sales organization can do. So bringing all that back into Salesforce, driving a better adoption rate and a better user experience, ultimately creating results.
Okay, thank you. I guess we are kind of coming close to time. We do have one more question. It's on how long did it take to do the implementation? And let's see. So the implementation pretty much, and I think that would be twofold. One for you, Tim, and then for you, Jay, is it kind of different as far as implementation time for individual clients?
Yeah, I'll take you through our piece. I know we're got a few minutes left, so I'll speak to how we went about it. So the actual implementation, I'll embarrass her, but Annika, who had never done any work in Salesforce before, and she's on our SAM team, wanted to use this as an opportunity to get to know configuration. And one of the key things that she did was she went in our sandbox and configured all of this. So she did. It doesn't require the heaviest lift, primarily because it's from the App Exchange. There's a few areas in our system that required a little bit more detail around roll-up summaries from non-master detail relationships and things like that. But ultimately, I think it was a couple weeks of her and being her first time doing that. So we deployed it into our production. We did that as a soft go live because I know our sales team, and even though we use this stuff all day, we are still not immune to being stubborn. So we went live with it in November with only our SAM team as a beta. And then we rolled it directly into it in January. So it was about a 2-month process of change management, about a 2-week process of configuration for us to do it. And we're still iterating as we go.
Jay, do you see difference in timing as far as how long it takes to do implementations across the different clients you work with?
Yeah, I mean, I would say just like any other software implementation, it's kind of a slippery slope to make a very specific answer to that. I do think it's important to actually understand requirements, what level or what solutions within the Prolifiq product suite are going to be leveraged, how businesses are operating today and what they're trying to achieve. So like Tim mentioned it, I mean, like it's fairly lightweight, right? Because it's all native and there's no API calls or anything along those lines for integration. But I do think it's really important to ultimately do discovery up front and work through that process so that there's a very clear understanding. We've got a great customer success team. They do a fantastic job, and sorry to be salesy here, but if you were to go to the App Exchange, you would see the proof is in the pudding. Like all the reviews are really solid. And so we have pretty much a white glove approach, but it would be really hard for me to say it's like a 1 week, 2 week, et cetera, scenario. So everything's a little different, right? When it comes to implementing software.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being part of the panel and helping us with some of the Q&A questions. So we're going to wrap up. I'd like to make sure that we get done on time, give everybody their day back. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining. Just like Tim said, we do have a series of webinars. Our purpose here is to make sure we're bringing you some informational webinars that can help you be more successful or grow your business better, or just, hey, here's something that might be really cool you might want to be using. So as Tim mentioned, our next one is next month, June 24th, and we'll be working with doing a seminar with Tally Street. Hope to see you there, please. And then you will also be getting a follow-up email. There'll be a link to today's webinar. So if you want to share this with your sales team or anybody internally within your company, you'll be able to do so. There'll also be contact information for everybody if by any chance you want to reach out to any of us. And lastly, we would love to hear from you and get any feedback, as Tim said, on future topics that you'd like to hear from us that we can share with you. So again, thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it. It's been great spending a little bit of 45 minutes with you, and I hope to see you next time.
Bye, everyone.